In this example, we want to create a program that will take a list of numbers and read out each of the numbers in the list. The key thing about this program is that we want it to work with any number of data in the list without having to change any of the code. So whether we have 5 items in the list, 50 or 1,000, I don't want to have to modify the code other than adding more items into the list, which typically we would do through some other process. To get started, we're going to start the way we begin many of the programs, with the when green flag is clicked. The next thing I'm going to do is create a list, because that's where I'm going to store all my data. So I go to variables and I say make a list, and I'm going to call it my list. Once I've created my list, I'm going to add a number of items into the list. So I'm going to add some numbers, 3, and then I'll go ahead and just keep duplicating that. Once I've got those items created in the list, one more thing I want to do is make a variable, and I'm going to call the variable counter. I'm going to need that a little bit later on, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll just start off, and I'm going to set my counter to 1 because I know that's what I'm going to need a little bit later on. The next thing I want my program to do is to go through and read out each of the items from the list. So to do that, I'm going to have some kind of a repeat. So I'll go to Control and say repeat, drag out the repeat 10 times block. Now the problem is I don't want it to repeat 10 times. I want it to repeat as many times are in the list. Well, right now I've only got 5 items in my list, but the requirement was that I not have to go in and modify the code every time. So yes, I could go in and say 5, and then the next time I run the program, if I had 10 pieces of data, then I could put in 10. The problem is I don't know quite often how much data I'm going to have. So I want that number, instead of putting in a 5, I want that number to be determined by however many items are in the list. The good thing is Scratch gives us the ability to do that. There's a function here that says length of my list. So that function returns however many items are in the list. So in this case, it will return the number 5. If I run the program, it adds these items to the list as expected. If I run it again though, it keeps adding them again and again. So I need to do some house cleaning. To do that, I use the function that says delete all of my list. I'm going to put that right up at the top of my program so that it cleans it all up before it adds them in. So now when I run it, you can see it just shows me the 5 items every time I run it. The next thing I want to do is get down to business of showing what I want it to show. So I'm going to go to looks and drag out the say block. I'm going to change it from 2 seconds to 0.5. Now, I don't want it to say hello. I want it to read each of the items from the list. To do that, I go down to variables and I look at my list and I ask it to show me an item from the list. So in this case, though, it's going to show me item number 1. Now, the first time it runs through, that's what I want, but the second time I want it to change to 2. And I don't want to have to go and keep duplicating this block every time I want to, change this to 2, because again, that doesn't work if I don't know how many items are in the list. So what I want it to do is, instead of saying item number 1, I want it to say whatever the counter is pointing to. So to do that, I go to my variables and I drag my counter and I drop that into the circle. So now, when the counter is equal to 1, it's going to say the first item. When the counter is equal to 2, it'll show me the second item. So I need now to change this counter value every time it runs through the loop. To do that, I go to change my counter by 1 and I drop into place. Let's see what happens now when we run the program. You can see it goes through. The Scratch Cat says each variable as it goes along. So by using this variable in conjunction with the item retrieval from the My List, it allows you to have a program that no matter how many items I put into the list, it will continue to work.